Every day that I do this, there's just more that I learn. Yeah, I lost weight, but there's so much more to it than that. Making sure we're in the right headspace, that we can continue on our journey, because this is a lifelong journey. It's not one of those things where it's like, okay, I just need to lose X amount of pounds in this amount of time, and then once I'm there, it's going to be perfect. It's not. Every day I wake up, I tell myself, okay, I got to put myself in that right space to continue on and go again. It's not one of those things where you have to follow it to the T, because it will evolve. It will change over time. I started doing 90s when I started this channel. Before the 90s, I didn't know what to do. I was testing it out. I was doing 36s. I was doing 72s. I was doing 165s. That's why I was trying to eat certain things. And I'm like, well, what if I just eat whatever I want? It is an ever evolving thing. It's going to be different for everybody. This is what I'm trying to get at. You have to figure out what works for you. You might want to do an X amount. You might have that number in your head. And if you're structured enough to do it, by all means, you should do it. You should push and get to that point if you can get there. Life is never perfect. The one thing I've learned in my life is the ups and downs are going to come. Consistency is key. I've said it many times. If the good days can outnumber the bad days, you will get through it. You will see results. In your head, you might think you have a number that you want to do. There might be a different way of eating that you think you want to do. And then later on in the middle of it, it might be too difficult and you want to switch it up. And that's okay. The one thing that I feel like some people don't really talk about is when I did my 90-hour fasts, I did a 90-hour fast because I knew I ate around 6,000 to 7,000 calories. But I knew doing a 90-hour fast, even eating that many calories in a refeeding window, was going to net me weight loss because I was always in a caloric deficit. I didn't know what I was doing back then. I was only like a month into my fasting regimen, but I was trying everything. I was trying to see what worked for me. I was like, okay, Jerome, figure out the number that works. So I was trial and erroring for such a long time. I was really strict back then, really, really strict back then. That's why I was doing these much longer fasts. The longer I did it, the harder it got for me. In my head, I'm like, can you do another 184-hour fast? Can you do another 141? I mean, I did. Depending on how hard you want to try, that's up to you. You need to figure out how hard you want to push. If you want to take it easy, you want to slow it down, that's really up to you. You need to figure out how you feel for that day. We don't always feel the same way every day. We feel differently. Some days we're more energetic than others, and that's okay. You might say you want to do 168 hours and then you end up doing a 48. Should you beat yourself up over it? No, you shouldn't. You should be proud that you did a 48. You just need to figure out what your backup plan is. You just fasted for 2 days worth. Does it mean you should eat 8,000 calories then and refeed? No, it doesn't. The longer you fast, the less you have to worry about counting calories. The shorter those fasts are, you better know how many calories you're taking in. Being consistent doesn't mean you have to do the same thing every day forever. It just means you have to have your plan in place and know that your plans might evolve just like you evolve. We age, we get older, our bodies don't work the same. You just have to adapt. You have to adapt. Doesn't matter how old you are. Doesn't matter how much you weigh. I think all of us have a right in saying that we should make our days better every day. We should do something that improves our lives every day. And I don't think there's anything wrong in saying that. I don't want people to look at progress as the number on the scale. I don't want people to look at progress as how many back-to-back fasts you've done. You look at the positive things that happen in your life, even with the down days, even with my past binging. I looked at that day as a point in my life where I learned from that mistake and grew from that mistake. You should never feel ashamed for wanting to switch up your fasting hour regimen, switching the way you eat. You just have to figure out what works for you. I've also have been trying to do anything when it comes to losing weight for my entire life. For my entire life, I've never been able to figure anything out. So if it was back in the day where it was just you just got to do calories in, calories out. You just got to eat low carb, keto, carnivore. I've tried it all. So I am not the person that can just do it. Yes, I've been able to do this now, but that's because I don't know if it's a different switch that came inside me or whatever, or because I found out how to fast and learn to enjoy the process. I want to point out the fact that yes, it takes a lot of discipline to do it. there's a lot of willpower involved. There's a lot of like that mentality of doing things properly and making sure you can continually do it. But you've seen it now. I've shown you doing 184-hour fasts, 160, and like I haven't been able to do those in quite some time. It's now gone down to 90s, down to 65s, and if you've been watching my videos recently, those 65s are about to turn into 42s. Throughout the 90s to 65s to 42s, a big part of me getting to where I'm at today, a big part of me consistently fasting is that I've learned to enjoy the process, to look at it. You need to look at what you're doing as not a diet, as not a temporary thing, but this is when people talk about a way of eating or a lifestyle, like there's so much truth to that. You have to find something that is sustainable for you. So if you have the willpower and discipline to go like balls out, right? Do it. But what I mean is like, I pushed myself. And if you're able to do that, that's great. But what happens after you push yourself and you're like, I can't do this anymore? You need to figure out what your plan is. That is why I never advise staying at 72s or whatever. Like you need to figure out what works for you. And if I can help with that, if I can help you get your mind right there, I would be more than happy to do so. I would love to help you guys out and figure things out, like where your plan is, and hopefully hopefully that helps. Like, let's build a community where we have a place where we can tell people like, hey, fasting is a thing. Fasting is sustainable. The one thing that kind of annoys me is when you see people, they have like, I tried fasting for a week. I tried it for 5 days. I tried it for X amount and I lost this amount. But it's like, but that's not real life. You just made a YouTube video to make a YouTube video to show that like you fasted for 7 days. Like, hey, here's like, let's have a place where it's like, no, fasting is a thing. Fasting, there are so many benefits when it comes to fasting. It resets the body, it resets the mind. Whether it's a 48 or even a 23 or whatever, there's so many benefits. And I want to have an actual positive community where fasting is an actual legit thing. If I can be a shining example of when I look back and I say, hey, I've been doing this for over a year, I take pride in that. I take pride in saying fasting is the reason that I'm where I'm at today. When I made that video where I said fasting has saved my life, it has literally saved my life. It has literally saved my life. Having this community is a way to keep myself in check as well. Something that I haven't been able to do, because like when you do it alone, you get to keep those secrets at home or alone too, right? You get to keep those secrets that nobody else can see because you don't hold yourself accountable. It's nice to know that like we have a group here that can kind of like share all of that, like our journey and where we're going to go.